Hey, what's going on, guys? Keyshawn McNeil. Welcome back to the Keyshawn McNeil Show, where we focus on career hacks and also financial hacks. So today I'm going to talk about this interview, your interview process, and how to handle that question that really stumps a lot of people. You know, when the interviewer will say, "Do you have any questions for me?" Right? And usually that will come up at the end of the interview. And it kind of just gives you an opportunity to kind of ask a few questions. I would probably say this is an opportunity to ask maybe 2 questions, maybe 3. You don't want to go past anything that's going to require the hiring manager to give more than, I would say, a 10-minute or a 7 to 10-minute answer total for everything. So I'm going to give you 5 questions you can ask. And of the 5, maybe pick 2 of these. These will help you really stay on the hiring manager's mind. It'll force them to kind of think about some things. It will also show that you have genuine interest in kind of the opportunity, and you're kind of already envisioning yourself in the role and what that may look like for yourself. So here are 5 questions to ask a hiring manager when they ask you, "Do you have any questions for me?" 1, give me 2 examples, Mr. Manager or Mrs. Manager, that make you say to yourself, "I'm so glad that I decided to stay at this company." The managers are going to love that question because immediately it's going to force them to think about their response. It's going to also probably take them back to a place, where they start to have memories about that decision process or something that happened while they were at the job and that makes them kind of feel good about being at the company. You're going to also probably get an authentic response, right? And even if someone doesn't have anything nice to say, the hiring manager, just that initial may cause them to pause and think for a while. Not that they're going to say anything bad, but it kind of can give you an edge in terms of hearing them if you feel like they're kind of trying to create some type of perfect answer, right? So I always recommend candidates do that, right? So here's another one. Here's a second one. Mr. or Mrs. Hiring Manager, what does the first 60 days in this position kind of look like? Right? And what that's going to do is it's showing the hiring manager that you're kind of already envisioning yourself in the role, kind of trying to get a good idea of what it looks like to be in the role. And as you transition into the next month and the second month, what your expectations, what can you expect, to be doing as you transition in? Number 3. But before I go to number 3, I want you to understand that the reason why you may want to consider asking that question is because if you are a finalist for a role, sometimes with these hiring managers, and I'm going to just be honest with you, as I've been on that side, where it's so close, you kind of think back to your interview notes and you kind of think about what kind of questions did the candidate ask me, and that is a really good question to ask. All right. So here's another one. Question number 3 to ask. What are 2 of the biggest challenges this company is currently facing? What are 2 of the biggest challenges this company is currently facing? Right? Now, this is going to give you some feedback in terms of what the hiring manager actually knows about the company. It's going to also let you know, give you insight into maybe some challenges as to why they even have the current opening, if they haven't answered that question during the interview earlier on. And for you as a candidate, it just kind of shows that, you care. You want to you're kind of envisioning yourself as to how you can fix some of those issues or maybe challenges that they're facing. How does this position kind of weigh into or fall into the solution as to facing some of those challenges, right? So that is always a good one to ask. Now, remember, you want to ask maybe 2, maybe 3. Right? We don't want to go too far and we don't want to turn this around like you're interviewing them. So I would definitely say 2, depending on how fast they answer the question, you might be able to get 3 in. So you can pick any of these out. So here's another question I like for people to ask when a hiring manager asks, "Do you have any questions for me?" It's a bold one, but I like this. I love this question. I've used it myself, when interviewing for opportunities or contracts and things of that nature. With this current role you're hiring for now, in your opinion, Mr. or Mrs. Hiring Manager, what would be some key things to help ensure that this person is successful in the first 90 days of starting this role? Again, what would be some of the key factors that will help ensure success in the first 90 days of this opportunity? Now, the reason why I love that question is because, again, the candidate is showing genuine interest in the role in reference to how they can be successful and how they can make an impact, right? Hiring managers typically like that because it shows that you're very interested and you're asking the right questions in that mode. But then the feedback you're going to get from the hiring manager, it's going to give you some good insight into how they think, Because in most cases, you'll probably be working for this person, or if it's not them, it's probably their one under, right? If it's a manager, and even if it's a peer, and they just have you at the peer stage, we just interviewing with a peer right now. It's good to kind of hear what the peers feel. What does that other recruiter think, right? But either way, a great question to ask. Don't run from that one. Again, if I'm telling you to ask 2 of these 3 questions, man, it's hard to not have that one is one of your definite questions to ask. All right, next question. Who are some of the key people that I will be interacting with on a day-to-day basis if selected for this opportunity? Why is that such a good question to ask? Well, it gives you an idea of what the position looks like on a day-to-day, right? In most cases, the hiring manager, they will kind of map out, you'll be working with this particular supervisor or this particular hiring group, or you'll be taking direction from this particular recruiting supervisor or manager, what have you. But, and then a lot of cases that'll come with the names or whatever, right? So this kind of gives you an idea of what their process looks like on a day-to-day basis. So you can kind of envision as a candidate, where you kind of stand, in terms of how they work at the company. So that is a really good question to ask. And remember, I can't stress this enough. Make sure you are only asking 2 of these questions, maybe 3 if you have time, but we don't want to drag this thing out. We just want to give you some sharp questions to ask outside of the standard questions that everybody and their mother always asks that are so boring and so scripted, right? So, yeah. Question number 5. Based on our conversation, is there anything that would make you hesitant in further considering me as an applicant for this role? This is a huge one because you might not like what you hear, but I tell you what, the reason why I like this question so much is because you're going to find out where you are most cases. If the hiring manager is on the fence, they're going to probably be a little evasive with their response. But if they perk up a little bit or they smile or whatever, it's like, oh, actually, yeah, you're probably one of the top 2 candidates right now, right? Or if they give you we're still considering other candidates we're interviewing and things like that. So you probably didn't make that short list, right? So I really like that question because it shows confidence, it shows boldness, it shows that, hey, I want to know where I am with this, right? And it puts the hiring manager on notice too, right? Because if you are a top candidate, they got to know they need to make a move because guess what? You're interviewing with other clients as well, right? So again, use that one, but it's for the big dogs to use, right? If you're not confident in yourself, stay away from that question. Okay. So now you have a good idea of how to respond to that question. Do you have any questions for me or any questions for us? Keep in mind, this works for the panel interviews as well, right? Now you're going to be able to give 3 or 4 people, depending on how many people are on that panel, you're giving them an opportunity to answer some questions. And I'm sure they'll probably get a little chuckle out of it with some of the questions that you may ask of these 5 or 6 questions that I just gave you. But the most important part in this interview process is don't look at it as an interview. And I know it's hard to do that. I know there's nerves involved. I know, with the state of the current economy, the job market for that matter, a lot of people are pressing, man, and they're like, I gotta get this job. I have to get this job. Don't ever go into an interview and showing desperation, right? Continue to stay above board with how you respond to questions. Stay professional, and don't look at it as an interview. It's just a meeting because you're trying to decide if you like them, and they're going to decide if they like you. Don't make it one-sided where it's almost like they're doing you a favor. Yeah, right? You want to get the offer, I'm sure. but you want to make sure that they have a perception of you where it's like, man, we really want this person to align with us. We really want this person to be a part of what we have going on. And almost like they need you versus you needing them, right? So, being nervous is part of being in an interview. That's totally fine. But just treat it like a meeting. Treat it like a meeting. Asking the questions. As always, take a notepad in there with you. Take some notes. It just shows that you're prepared and you're genuinely interested in what's going on, and so you're not going to waste your time, and you're taking it seriously. So, with that being said, do me a favor. Again, like I said, with the current job market, people are looking for opportunities. Some people haven't had to try to find a job in 7-8 years, right? Go down your cell phone and share this with 3 people in your network, right? Because you may not be looking for an opportunity right now. You may not be in the interview phase right now, but you know someone that is. You know someone that was impacted by some of these layoffs that we're having most recently, right? Share it with them, right? And also do me a favor, please like this episode for me. It helps me reach more people through the algorithm. And don't forget, please share. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you.